Hello, and welcome to Beyond the Deal, where we discuss business, entrepreneurship, and commercial real estate. My name is Lacey Labs, and I'm here with my co-host, Laura Martin. In today's episode, we interview Thomas Bream, Senior Vice President and Market Executive at Presence Bank. Tom began his career in banking right out of college and has been in banking ever since. Tune into this episode to hear more about Tom's journey, the banking and finance experience that he shares, and what advice he would give to real estate agents and business owners looking to get loans for their businesses. Thomas Bream, welcome to Beyond the Deal. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in banking.
Sure. I've always been a big fan of banks growing up as a kid, gone to the bank with my father, getting a lollipop.
Yeah.
All that. It just always intrigued me. Money always intrigued me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I needed a job while I was going to college, I had done a couple of things right after high school before I went into college. I did some manufacturing work and I figured out pretty quickly that wasn't for me. And I had an opportunity to start a summer job as a teller with Farmers Trust Bank in Carlisle, which was a small community bank, just thinking, it was going to give me a couple of dollars to make it through college. And they hired me after I graduated from Messiah, and I've been in banking ever since. So Farmers Trust was a small community bank, and that's, all banks are not the same. There's big banks, there's small banks. I've always migrated to smaller banks just because that was where I kind of cut my teeth, so to speak, in the industry.
So you've been in Central PA in banking for a pretty long time, right? What kind of drew you into? How did you just, was it like, okay, you started after college, but clearly you enjoyed something about it because you've been doing it for your whole career. So what kind of drew you in?
So I work on the commercial banking side now primarily, and I love getting to interact with customers and seeing all businesses are run a little bit differently. All management teams have their own style. It's an opportunity to see behind the curtain, to see how a business is run. And it really is. I love the entrepreneurial story. I love hearing how people either got their start, how they got promoted into being the CEO of the company, or, their career path. It's just a fascinating journey for me to hear those different stories. And it's probably the thing that I've liked the most in my career, for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
He shows up with all kinds of questions about everything.
Yeah, you've probably seen some things we don't see. I would imagine all kinds of businesses work with banks, so you probably see all kinds of stuff. So what is your current role? When I saw online, it's SVP Market Executive. What does that mean? What do you do?
Right. So I work for a bank called Presence Bank, and I am in charge of this market, the Central Pennsylvania Capital Region market, to help grow our brand, our customer base, our products and services in this marketplace. So I'm the face, if you will, of Presence Bank in this marketplace, along with a small team of other bankers that I have on my team.
So not just commercial, all the different types of banking you represent.
We represent all different types of banking, for sure, residential mortgages, consumer lending, but our primary emphasis has been on the commercial banking side.
Okay.
And what's really unique about the bank is there's no branches.
We have no branches in the capital region. We do have 4 branches. So I was talking earlier about banks are all different shapes and sizes. Our bank is about $450 million in assets, about 38 employees. So that's small comparatively speaking to some of the larger brands that are in the marketplace. Sure. So we don't have a big branch network, but with technology and the things that have changed over time, that really has changed banking so that now you can deposit your check from your phone. We could put a machine in your office like Laura knows about that you can make deposits right from your office. So branch isn't as important. It's still a place where you got to go to get cash physically, other than an ATM to deposit cash. You still need a branch nearby.
You should be like Gary Nilbanian. You could be in a meeting with him and be like, can you cash this check? And he would whip out the money. But it does work. Your model works. Yeah. And there's always someone that picks up the phone and tries to help you, even for a wire or whatever you kind of need last minute.
Yeah. We focus a lot on white glove service. So what that means to us is we bring the bank to you, right? So when we're onboarding a customer, we're taking the paperwork there, we're taking our products and services there. They're not coming to see us, we're going to see them.
So your team spends the time on the road.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. The more time I'm out of the office, the better.
Yeah, it's a different model, but like your guy, James, they're really high on customer service, which is refreshing.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm learning a ton. So what would you say makes your job interesting or challenging? Especially, this has been a tough lending economic climate the last couple of years. what stands out to you? What's interesting? What do you love? And what's challenging, at least right now?
Yeah. So the challenging part, obviously, there's a lot of competitors, right? Mm-hmm. So, you got to be sharp at what you do. You got to be good at what you do. You have to be networked. You got to know people. So it's very competitive. So that's probably the biggest challenge, other than the economic challenges that are obvious in the market from time to time, and the interest rates, things like that. But that's probably the biggest challenge. The thing that's most fun, I talked about earlier, is just getting to meet people, getting to do things like this, getting to see the way different businesses are run, looking around and knowing I had a hand or a role that I played in some of the relationships and some of the businesses that are in the market today. It's very interesting to me as well.
That's really cool. What does the lending sort of opportunities look like right now at the beginning of 2025? You guys do a lot of commercial. Just can you paint a little bit of a picture for us of where we've been and where we're going from what you can see right now?
Right. So everybody's aware that over the past year, 2 years, interest rates have been increasing. That slowed things down for a bit. I think the economy was impacted a little bit by the election, people waiting to see kind of what happened. And of course, we had the inauguration yesterday. So we're optimistic about the market this year. I don't know that we're going to see explosive growth, but I think, it's going to be one of those markets where we, have to fight for each deal that we get, look at each deal and evaluate it. And at the end of the year, hopefully we've had a successful year.
Very cool. So do you guys have, in terms of your lending options, do you do stuff like SBA loans in your bank? Or do you do mostly just your own bank's private lending?
Yes, we only do our own bank private lending. We do not have an SBA provider. We refer that business out as needed.
Okay. We just did a deal that was, I think, a little unique. We needed money. We weren't sure how much. And so we didn't do a traditional loan. We did a line of credit, and we're going to fix it at some point. But so that worked well. Yeah. Met my clients' needs. Yeah. So
I feel like we see a lot of, just in the market, it's been a lot of creative has been needed to get deals across the table. So maybe if you can share any, not specifics of who was involved, but any deals you've seen happen where you're like, this kind of stood out, or this is different, or we got this done, but it was very non-traditional.
Well, Laura had a good example. Office space is a little harder to finance these days because of the remote work and things like that. So the deal that we worked on for Laura and her client was a commercial office building. But we were able to provide some flexible terms because they didn't know how much money they needed because they had to renovate some space and things like that. So we gave them a line of credit for a period of time. And then after that period of time expires, we'll just turn it into conventional commercial.
It made the most sense because we're probably going to need some more money. So I didn't want to keep doing loans. So you got creative.
Yeah.
Think outside the box.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah, I think, I talked about earlier, I like to work for smaller community banks, and it has nothing to do with my, well, I shouldn't say that.
Well, everyone in this market.
No, I like working for smaller community banks just because I think they have a flexible environment to talk through deals, to try to figure out deals, to try to do what's best. I think sometimes the bigger a bank gets, the more inflexible they can become. So, I think that's why I tend to migrate to smaller community banks in my career, because of that flexibility to help customers in a flexible and creative way.
And then you kind of get to know, so you can call and say, hey, I know I'm asking you to pull a little favor. Can you do it? Like signing documents and stuff. Yeah. It worked out.
One of the things that, I think the audience would be interested to know is, all banks are different. We all have products and services that look and behave the same way. We all lend money, but every bank has its own kind of unique credit culture, if you will, that is either flexible or inflexible, has a desire to do transactions, or is maybe a little bit more conservative. So while all banks look the same and you feel like, I would get the same treatment from this bank to that bank, they're all uniquely, different in the way that they handle a customer relationship.
And I like smaller banks too, because my own personal experience, banks keep getting bought out. And then it's impossible to get a hold of somebody or get help without being in queue forever with some office that's out of the state. It's nice to, I can call you and you know me, and, in a minute or two, we can figure out if we could strike a deal on something.
It's relationship banking in a very real.
Yeah, I'm big on relationships. I know you are too. Yeah.
So what would you say are some of the biggest obstacles that you see for business owners and investors right now who are looking to get lending? I know the interest rates are a piece of it. So maybe that is one of the biggest ones. But what else stands out to you, and what are some of the things that you're running into regularly that are just part of today's kind of economic climate?
I think as a banker and as business owners, what we're primarily looking for is some certainty, some regularity. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping, that things kind of stabilize a little bit. I mean, as a banker, I don't want to be surprised from my customer with bad information. As a customer, they don't want to be surprised from their banker with surprise information. Mm-hmm. So you're looking for some reliability. So I'm hoping that, as this economy continues to change, as the new administration kind of puts their thumbprint on things, that there is some reliability that we can experience both as business owners and bankers to have some certainty with as much as we can in this marketplace.
So the interest rate changes is a big piece of the reliability.
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah. And then prices of, specifically in our situation, real estate, right? So how much lending? So typically in a commercial loan, you guys require 20% down.
It's been as much as 25% down.
Okay.
As credit culture tightens a little bit in weaker economic times, banks tend to be a little bit more conservative. So most real estate transactions these days, we're looking at 25% down, more than 20% down.
Okay. Interesting. Learning so much.
I think sometimes bankers get bad raps because we only lend people that don't need money. But I always tell people, I mean, when you sit and think about it, we got to be right 99 out of 100 times.
Yeah,
right?
You don't want bad.
Any more than that, and we're out of business.
Right.
We need to make sure that we're lending to people that we know we're going to get repaid, because we don't get a chance to make errors that much and stay in business. Mm-hmm. So that's a high percentage rate of success.
Well, now you probably have to start reaching out to people that did loans, and the interest rate's going to change substantially, right?
Yeah.
Commercial loans, fixed, 5, 7, 10 max in the past.
Yeah, loans that we did 4 or 5 years ago at 3.5% are repricing these days to above 7 probably. Mm-hmm. So that's a big interest rate adjustment. So we're having conversations with our borrowers in advance. What does this look like for you when your rate will adjust? And
will the numbers still work?
How do you?
Which ends up being a good opportunity for commercial realtors.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah.
So.
So what types of businesses do you work with? Like, do you have any limitations, or is there an ideal customer for Presence Bank in terms of size or what kind of products they're looking for?
Right. So banks are limited to the amount of lending they can do based on their capital base. So as I was mentioning earlier, we're a smaller bank, about $450 million in assets. Based on our capital size, our maximum lending transaction is about $6.5 million. Okay. So that's going to be smaller than some of the larger banks in the area, obviously, and what they can do. So we're looking at primarily closely held businesses that have credit needs up to $6.5 million. I'm a generalist by nature. I've got a variety of operating companies that do different things, whether one customer owns a bunch of Pizza Huts, one customer is in the lawn and power equipment sales, one customer is in the trucking industry, and then we've got customers that are in the engineering space. So we don't really have necessarily a specialty that we focus on. We do, as a community bank, do a lot of commercial real estate by nature, but we love operating companies as well.
You sound like you're a small business. Really is your ideal client, right?
Yeah.
Anybody, because 6 million, big corporations are looking for more than that, but small businesses, that's a great number to be at.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Small town bank.
What's your tagline? Do you have a tagline?
No tagline.
Oh, small town bank.
No tagline.
We've just come up with one for you.
We talk a lot about people buying. People buy, they don't want to be sold, right? So it's an emotional decision when people make decisions. And a lot of times in our industry, people make their decision based on price. And price is going to be important. Obviously, if you're borrowing millions of dollars, price is going to be an important factor. But I think value in general is the combination of price, service, and quality. So sometimes I think people can be a little bit short-sighted when we're competing against other banks for a deal, if they're making the selection just based on price. Because as Laura mentioned, some of the service that we offer in terms of the white glove service and all the other things, it's hard to kind of put a price tag on that until you experience it. When somebody's there for you, when you call at 10 o'clock at night and I answer the phone and things like that, that's not something that necessarily, you're going to receive from all different bank providers. So then you have to evaluate how important is that in my buying decision to have somebody that's going to have a relationship and is going to be there at the long term rather than just the transaction that gets done for the day.
Yeah.
Well, I called, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, but you're looking for a wire. And I guess you had like an all hands on sales meeting of some sort. And 2 of your people called me back.
Yeah.
I was impressed. Yeah. Like that day from the meeting.
We have a 24-hour sundown rule. So, the objective is if somebody calls you, you're returning the phone call within 24 hours. But,
that's good
we're trying to differentiate ourselves here based on service. And look, no bank's going to come out and say, we're going to give you bad service, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to, have that kind of comment. But, it's something that just needs to be experienced. How can I communicate to you what our service looks like other than talk about the white glove service, us bringing the bank to you, answering the phone at night. Our bank CEO gives you his personal cell phone number. He'll answer the phone call 24 hours a day. So it's a way of differentiating in a marketplace where there's a lot of competitors.
It's a side that's experiential. No matter what you say about it, you have to experience it to really know that it's true and believe it. Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys work with nonprofits?
We do. Okay. Nonprofits is one of the key focuses for us. As a bank, we're only able to lend as much as we have on deposit, function of banking. So, if we're lending to businesses, we need to supply deposits so that we can lend that money out. And we'll lend to nonprofits as well. But nonprofits are a great source of deposits for our bank. And it's a primary focus of ours for sure.
So how many branches, well, not branches, but where are you guys?
So we're headquartered in Chester County.
Okay.
We have 2 offices in Chester County, 2 offices in Lancaster County, and then my loan production office sits in Harrisburg,
but
at the corner of Front and Market Street.
The bank's not new, right?
No, the bank's been around for over 100 years.
Wow.
It was originally Coatesville Savings Bank.
Okay.
And about 5 years ago now, a new management team was brought to the bank to change the direction of the bank from kind of an old savings and loan model to more of a relevant commercial bank. So 5 years ago, new name, new management team, new products, new services, new focus. We really call it's like a 100-year-old startup because although the bank's been around for a long time, it's really has a lot of new energy in the last 5 years.
How long have you been there?
I have been there since 2020.
Oh, wow. So you came over basically when they expanded to this market.
Yeah.
So interesting.
So you moved during the COVID, like in the middle of the pandemic?
In the middle of COVID, right. Yeah.
That was a big decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that like? That had to be a very interesting time to be a banker.
It was a very interesting time to be a banker for sure. PPP, I don't ever want to hear those terms again. That was a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of customers wanting to be first in line for funds that were very important at the time. But a lot of, I talked about certainty earlier, there was just a lot of moving parts to that up until the day that we were able to take applications and start the process. So
it was a mess.
A lot of confusion, a lot of chaos, a lot of hard work and effort. But
yeah, wow. I love the name Presence. I think based on how you're describing it, now that I'm seeing it, looking backwards, I'm like, okay, this kind of all turned over. You got this new marketing team, we're doing banking differently. I'm assuming that name really describes you guys, right? Is that the idea?
We want to have a presence in the marketplace for sure.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be a physical presence with branches, but just, people that are networked out in the community doing things and making a difference.
Mm-hmm. You do a lot of social stuff. I mean, I see you at pretty much every networking thing I ever go to.
It's important. I mean, it's important to be networked. It's important to meet new people. And I just joined the board of the Harrisburg Regional Chamber. Oh. I'm involved with the Whitaker Center on their finance committee. I'm involved with the Y. From the early days of my banking career, I've always been encouraged to be involved in the community, and that's been important to me. I
love that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a nice way to meet people. It's a nice way to make a difference.
Yeah. Whitaker Center's been doing some cool things recently. So I have a son who's 9, and so we love the Whitaker Center. Whitaker Center's amazing, super fun. And they do some really awesome summer camps that my son always begs for me to sign him up for Whitaker Center specific camps because they're his favorite. But UPMC just kind of did a big sponsorship and buy-in. So Whitaker Center seems like they're really moving and grooving. So Yeah. Can you give us any insights?
Yeah, their programming has always been very good.
Yeah.
COVID changed things for businesses like the Whitaker Center a lot.
Yeah.
So, they're evaluating and reevaluating some of the offerings that they have. Speaking of COVID. So, yeah. It's a good organization.
I went to Tres Bonnet for years. I've been a sponsor, and I have not gone like the last year or two, but I've heard that's kind of not been what it used to be. And I'm thinking that was a huge, their charity was the Whitaker Center.
Yeah.
So that I'm sure that was a hit to try to figure out how to. I'd like to see that saved, but it was too much. It was too many events, too many nights, too many.
Yeah. It's hard for a fundraising event to have a long life cycle.
Yeah.
It was very successful for a good many years.
Yeah, it was.
But it's hard to maintain
amazing.
that level of
The caliber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Cool. So, so you're in Harrisburg. Are you guys looking to expand, or what's your footprint? Are you?
We're definitely looking at organic growth for sure.
Like acquiring another bank kind of thing, or?
If an opportunity came up, I'm sure we would be optimistic. But organic growth is our primary growth strategy at this point. Grow customers one at a time. Yeah. And, just do our best to service them and get the word out.
And hard to get people to change? I would say yes, but I wondered what you were seeing.
Operating companies for sure.
You need a pain point.
You absolutely need pain for an operating company to change the banking services. On the real estate side, you can do it as a transaction because you don't need to change all your banking relationship to finance a piece of real estate. But on an operating company, it's a pretty significant change for somebody to make that. With all the mergers and acquisitions that have happened in our industry, that creates some pain points for people to sometimes consider making that change. But a lot of customers have grown kind of accustomed to bank name changes and mergers and acquisitions. So
because there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Now, are you guys publicly held?
We are publicly held. PBBK, we're traded on NASDAQ. That was part of the whole change in the last 5 years. New management team, new products, new services, and we became fully publicly held.
Cool.
Interesting.
Cool.
And you travel. You cover other areas, like you do your work and just cover wherever.
Sure.
Or the bulk of your business, though, Cumberland, Dauphin kind of.
Bulk of my business is primarily in Dauphin and Cumberland County, but we don't really have any limitations in terms of geography. We have kind of a primary market area that we like to deal in, which is kind of a 10-county area in central Pennsylvania. But I've got customers in the Philadelphia area. I've got customers in the Shippensburg area, kind of go wherever customer takes me.
But one of the things that we did last year, besides this, which, was one of the better things I think we did last year, is we started doing quarterly reports. Have you ever seen ours?
Mm-mm.
We'll have to get you on the mailing list. I think you would get some value out of it.
Yeah, but it's something we've been trying to hone in on, just how to get the data and how to figure out how to present that well. So we have a good bit of real estate data, right? And we can find interest rate data.
We're doing 5 counties right now.
Always, four counties right now. Yeah, so it's Lancaster, Dauphin, Cumberland, and York. And so we look at every transaction in commercial real estate and at every asset class. Over 500,000, I think, is our thing, just so you see the significant.
We'll send you a copy.
Yeah.
Get you on the mailing list.
Some assessment, just kind of look at where our market is. And so it is an interesting piece. I think there's an interesting, the bank piece feels like it's right next to it, or right in it with that content. It's just the lending piece of commercial real estate just ties right in with that data that we're looking at. So
when you guys always have the economic forecasts, lunch, and
Anirban Basu.
I love him.
Dr. Anirban.
I bet I've heard him 6 times. If he's speaking, I'm there. I find him fascinating. He's funny. He's interesting.
It is by far our best event that we do in the marketplace. We do that. We co-sponsor that with Stonebridge Financial Group. And Dr. Anirban Basu, if you haven't heard him, fantastic communicator, an economist with a sense of humor.
He likes to tie things back to music.
Yeah. But
he's out of Maryland.
Has a very good presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You do it every year?
We've done it every year.
And you get,
and it's usually in November.
Okay. We get
a very good audience.
Yeah.
Customers.
A lot of people.
customers to be.
It's a who's who.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that event.
Yeah, it's a good one. I agree.
Well, Tom, what advice do you think you would give to business owners who are looking to get lending, or commercial real estate investors who are going to banks? How do I get this deal done?
Yeah. I think I would say a couple of things. All banks are different. So if you get turned down by one bank, or you don't like the terms and conditions offered by one bank, talk to a couple of banks. Because as I said earlier, every bank has kind of its own credit culture. So that would be first. Second would be, don't make your purchase decision just based on price alone. Evaluate service and quality as well as part of that pricing decision, or as part of that final banking decision. And then just the reliability. As a banker, and I can speak for all bankers, we don't want to be surprised with the bad news from customers, and they don't want to be surprised with bad news from the bank. So make sure the communication's open and honest, and you share as much as you can with your banker, because they're there to help you.
So if I'm a customer and I'm like looking for lending, so one thing that comes to mind for me is, if I'm looking for multiple places, are they gonna hit my credit more than once, right? Like, is that going to show up? Is it going to cause a problem for me? Because 3 or 4 different banks are going to all try and look at my credit. How does that part work when someone's shopping the market?
Yeah, it's a valid concern. I don't know that many credit inquiries are going to hurt the credit score that badly. Certainly, I would suggest keeping the universe of banks that you talk to a fairly small universe of banks, 2 or 3. But it hasn't been too impactful. But a lot of times a bank will offer a term sheet before they pull credit, just to say, hey, are we in the ballpark of being able to put this transaction together for you? And then the borrower might ask us to pull the credit after we've kind of reached some of that decision, making the assumption that the credit's going to be good.
Yeah.
So
there's a pretty big difference, I think, between like doing like a personal residential type loan versus like a commercial. You pretty much know kind of what you're dealing with before you pull the plug, and you might start digging into our past.
Yeah, awesome. So our closer question, we ask everybody the same one, is if you could go back and start your career over again, but keep all the knowledge and experience that you've gained over those years, is there anything that you would do differently?
I would stay in banking. I have really enjoyed banking.
That's good.
I think I would specialize. I've often thought if I would have specialized in a particular industry or two, I think it would have made me a little bit more valuable as a banker. Because as a generalist, I know a little bit about everything, but if I would have specialized in a couple of particular industries, I think I could have really been more of an advocate in that industry and more of an expert in that industry. So that's probably some of the bankers that I've seen over my career that have specialized in industries, I thought had a better relationship with their customers. They had more success from a sales perspective because they were a bit more of an expert in the industry. So it's probably what I would have done differently, for sure.
Even in our size market, do you think that's possible?
Yeah, I think specialization could take you outside of this market as well. If there's an industry specialization, I don't think you're as constrained to a smaller market area. I think you can do it on a broader scale.
Interesting. Can you loan out of state?
We can.
Just a thought I had.
We can.
Random thought.
Well, we'll put that one down as a good tip for people who are younger in banking. Go specialize.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for your time. It was great to have you today. We learned a ton about Presence Bank and look forward to continuing to do deals with you in the future.
Yeah, so, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Thomas Bream sharing his insights on banking and finance. For more information on Tom, Presence Bank, or to learn more about SB and Lattice, click the links in the show notes. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Deal.